Folks, I saw this particular clip on MSNBC on the Andrea Mitchell show, and I just couldn't let this one go. I just couldn't. The guy you see in front of you, his name is Joe Crockett, and he's a black radio talk show host, and he is a Republican. Okay, I don't really give a damn about the fact that he's a Republican, but in my mind, when things get so bad for our people that people like this cannot do the right thing as far as either morally, let's just cut to the chase, let's just stick with the morally, then, you know, we got to cut these people loose. Now, I'm going to play the entire clip from the Andrea Mitchell show, and I just want you to see everything that was put in front of this man, and he has seen this up close and personal because he's out of Birmingham, and I want you to see what he says at the very end as far as how he feels as far as voting for Roy Moore versus voting for the Democrat. Hang on one second.
Back, Roy Moore's wife, Kayla Moore, trying to defend her husband from accusations of anti-Semitism and racism, may have unwittingly made it a lot worse.
Fake news would also have you think that my husband doesn't support the black community. Yet my husband appointed the very first black marshal to the Alabama Supreme Court. We have many friends that are black, and we also fellowship with them in church and in our home. Fake news would tell you that we don't care for Jews. One of our attorneys is a Jew.
Now let me stop right there. As far as the black portion of the conversation, anytime a white person tells you they got a black friend, okay, you know you got a problem, because that's just for show. And in particular, Roy Moore has said that any amendment beyond the 10th Amendment, if he had his druthers, would get rid of. Now, if you don't know anything about the 11th through the 27th, let's just concentrate on the 14th through the 17th. The 14th through the 17th had to do with the freeing of the slaves, black people in America, and also the granting of all of the rights and privileges of American citizens, including the right to vote. So if he wants to get rid of those three amendments, he basically is saying that he wants black people to be enslaved again. Now, there are also the various amendments as far as women's suffrage, voting rights for women, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not even going to get into all of the amendments, but this guy wants to take us back to pre-slavery days, okay? That's one. Now, you saw the goofy look on her face when she was talking about the Jewish people, and she says her attorney is a Jew. Now, I don't know if you realize this, but her phrasing it in that exact terminology is an insult to Jewish people, okay? You don't say your attorney is a Jew as though it were a slap in the face. If you want to say that, you basically say my attorney is Jewish. That's the proper phraseology if you want to make that type of a statement. Okay, now this guy has seen and heard all of this stuff, okay? Check him out.
Joining me now is Joe Lockett, an Alabama radio host and a Republican. Joe, thanks so much for being with us today. Where do you think this race stands as you talk to voters and as your listeners call in? Is there any way to predict?
Andrea, thanks for having me. Well, thanks for having me on the show. Right now, what we're looking at is, when I listen to my listeners right now, when they're calling into the show, Andrea, right now, if Doug Jones, he hasn't done a really good job on the ground. And right now, the millennials are not really into Doug Jones. So right now, if Doug Jones doesn't take Birmingham, Alabama, or Huntsville, there's a good chance that Roy Moore may take this election.
And that really speaks to how he's reached out to the African American community and how he's reached out to Republicans who might be potential crossover voters. What is the impact of someone, for instance, like Condoleezza Rice, an Alabama native? I know from talking to her for years, and in her book, she talked about how her father became a Republican because of the segregationist stance of Democrats in Jim Crow Alabama, and how she actually knew one of the children who was killed in the Birmingham bombing in 1963. So for her to come out and say, I encourage you to take a stand for our core principles and for what is right, these critical times require us to come together to reject bigotry, sexism, and intolerance. I know that Alabamans need an independent voice in Washington, but we must also insist that our representatives are dignified, decent, and respectful of the values we hold dear. She didn't come out and say vote for Doug Jones, but that's what she's saying.
Right. Well, I think, you know what, actually when I read that, Andrea, the thing what I thought about is we do have to vote our values. And right now, what I see, there's a small push. Anytime anybody gets on TV, their wife or anybody gets on TV and say, I have a black friend, that offends me. So at the end of the day, you know, if I haven't seen you in my community, if I haven't seen you in the schools with my kids, don't sit here and tell me about what you have. My thing is to you, what have you not done in our community? And I think it's a day late and a dollar short to try to claim me now at the end of the day for this campaign, and I think it's despicable myself.
And the other thing that was really...
Let me stop it there. He was talking about Doug Jones when he was saying that, and you know, I'm not going to necessarily disagree with him on that as far as Doug Jones actually reaching out to the black community. But now let's flip that around. What has Roy Moore done for the community? As a matter of fact, he's basically fucked the community. So if you want to put those two things together, as far as both of those candidates, neither one of them really has done much as far as the black community down in Alabama is concerned. Okay, but at least Doug Jones doesn't want to take us back to the slavery period. Anyway, I digress. Let me continue.
Quite alarming to a lot of people last week was what the LA Times reported that Roy Moore said back in September. I think it was September 14th, when he said, in talking about Make America Great Again, and when asked what was so great about America back in the days of segregation and the rest, he said, I think it was great at the time when families were united, even though we had slavery, they cared for one another. It just seemed like a clueless defense of slavery.
Exactly. Again, when you make statements like that and then you come back and you have your wife say the things that she said on national TV, it's a disgrace to our community. And even though I'm a Republican, and even though, you know, I would love to vote for Roy Moore, and I know a lot of people would, at this point in time, we have to vote our values. And you know, is it more important for us to vote about the political parties or do the right thing for what's right for the people in Andrea?
So what are you going to do in terms of your vote? You
know something? Right now, Andrea, I'm still up in the air, but I know I'm not voting for Doug Jones at this point in time right now. I don't know if I'm going to write in for Roy Moore at this point in time. I'm really not for sure. I will know it in probably a couple hours once I go vote.
Now, everything that he just said is the exact opposite of what he said 2 minutes ago. He just said that Roy Moore has slapped the black community in the face, okay? He realizes that Roy Moore wants to take us back to slavery, and this dumb motherfucker can't find it in his moral conscience to vote for the other guy, the guy that doesn't want to take us back to slavery, the guy that's not a racist, the guy that's not a pedophile and a misogynist, and he's still thinking about voting for this guy? Come on. And that's what I don't understand. See, some of our people are just so goddamn lost that there's no help for them. See, and you get guys like this, and I partially understand it. Look, back in the 60s, the bad guys in the South were the Democrats. They were the racists, you know, the Klan guys. They were the ones that black people had to fear. And it was the Republicans back then that basically if you want to call it, were more for us. But after the Democrats, okay, basically got their clocks handed to them when they signed all the civil rights legislation, the Democrats decided that they weren't going to go along with the program. They switched parties over to the Republicans, okay? And the Republicans, okay, basically switched over to the Democrats because the Democrats were more socially fair. But these people still haven't realized that. And this is like, my God, this is 50 years ago that that change occurred, and they still haven't brought up to the times. So for this fool to say that he doesn't know who he's going to vote for, but he knows he's not going to vote for the guy that's going to be fair, he's still considering voting for the guy who wants to make us all slaves again. I'm just too pissed off. It's ridiculous.
All right. Well, stay tuned. We'll be listening. Thank you so much. Thanks for being with us, Joe Lockett. And coming up.
All right. Let me go get this up online because this is fucking ridiculous. I mean, and you wonder why we can't get our acts together when you get assholes like this, okay, that can't see the handwriting on the goddamn wall and is willing to stay down on that goddamn Republican plantation that he's on. I don't know what they gave him. I don't know how well off, he's doing as far as being a Republican, but whatever it is, it ain't enough.